county transportation agencies of Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim region to receive relief funding.
In Santa Clarita, Keisha Rose Labanan.
Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department holds free Cadillac converter etching events. Find out why.
In Las Vegas, Nevada, Lori Jarvina.
Las Vegas Bellagio Hotel showcases spring celebrations around the world.
EBC's Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmo takes us to the nation's capital for a glimpse of how people there are welcoming spring, a year after COVID restrictions began. And this year's Fit DC, her story virtual 5K, bringing together friends and families. Plus, for tonight's roundtable, March 21 is National Common Courtesy Day. Let's talk about treating others the way you want to be treated. Our coverage begins now. President Joe Biden says hate can have no safe harbor in America after meeting with leaders in Atlanta's Asian American community. This following the deadly shootings of 8 people in spas, including 6 women of Asian descent. Speaking alongside Vice President Kamala Harris at Emory University, the president emphasizes the increased violence and harassment against Asian Americans since the start of the coronavirus pandemic. Take a look.
Well, whatever the motivation, we know this. Too many Asian Americans have been walking up and down the streets and worrying, waking up each morning the past year feeling their safety and the safety of their loved ones are at stake. They've been attacked, blamed, scapegoated, and harassed. They've been verbally assaulted, physically assaulted, killed. It's been a year of living in fear for their lives, just to walk down the street. Grandparents are afraid to leave their homes. Small business owners targeted and gunned down. Attacks on some of the most vulnerable people in our nation, the elderly, low-wage workers, and women. In fact, Asian American women suffer twice as many incidents of harassment and violence as Asian American men. But for all the good that laws can do, we have to change our hearts. Hate can have no safe harbor in America. It must stop. And it's on all of us together, to make it stop.
Vice President Kamala Harris alluded to the past administration's contribution to the spread of hate against people of color.
Asian Americans have been attacked and scapegoated. People who are perceived as Muslim know what it was like to live in our country after 9/11. For the last year, we've had people in positions of incredible power scapegoating Asian Americans. People with the biggest pulpits spreading this kind of hate. These facts are clear. 6 out of the 8 people killed on Tuesday night were of Asian descent. 7 were women. The shootings took place in businesses owned by Asian Americans. The shootings took place as violent hate crimes and discrimination against Asian Americans has risen dramatically over the last year and more. Racism is real in America, and it has always been. Xenophobia is real in America, and always has been. Sexism, too. In the 1860s, as Chinese workers built the Transcontinental Railroad, there were laws on the books in America forbidding them from owning property.
Harris says racism is undeniably happening in America. Meanwhile, as he tours the CDC's headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, President Joe Biden tells workers at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention they are owed a gigantic debt of gratitude. President Biden praised their work during the coronavirus pandemic.
We owe you a gigantic debt of gratitude, and we will for a long, long, long time, because I hope this is the beginning and the end of not paying attention to what's going to come again and again and again and again. Science is back. No, all kidding aside, think about it. For the longest time, not just as it relates to CDC, but science was viewed as sort of an appendage to anything else we were talking about. But it's back, and we're not going back to the old days. Even if tomorrow the whole administration changed, I think you've changed things. You've changed them in a way that are going to make everybody healthier in this country. And when we have a crisis, you're prepared to meet it because you speak truth and science to power.
Vice President Harris echoed the president's message, saying the work the CDC does is for people they won't see nor know, but still care for.
You do this work on behalf of people you will never meet, on behalf of people who will never know your names, because you care about our country and their well-being. So we are here to thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
And now an overview of today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University and Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday, March 21, 2021, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 123,040,000. Top three on the list of countries with recorded cases: U.S. more than 29.7 million, Brazil more than 11.9 million, and India more than 11.6 million. This virus has now already claimed more than 2,712,000 lives worldwide. Again, top three countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths are U.S. more than 542,000, Brazil more than 292,000, and Mexico more than 197,000. Now on to our updates. Alberta's chief medical health officer expressed concern about some people's view that COVID infection is nothing to worry about. In Edmonton, Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness joins us tonight with the details. Thomas?
Thank you, Anna. And that begs the question, if you watch that news conference, what if most cases of COVID-19 had really severe symptoms? And I ask this question because the answer is very revealing. As I mentioned, I watched a news conference the other day with the Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Dina Hinshaw. She's no stranger to those of you who have seen my reports over the last year. And at her latest press briefing, Hinshaw expressed concern about the belief of some people about COVID-19. Now, she worries because there is that segment of the population that believes, in most cases, the infection is relatively mild.
I'm hearing a rise in the belief that because most people who catch COVID recover, that this means we shouldn't worry about its spread. The reality is that it is this very fact of most people having mild symptoms that makes COVID-19 so dangerous for our communities. This is because any one of us could be carrying the virus and not yet showing symptoms, passing it on to our friends and family, who then pass it on to others.
Now, that's when she went on to make this remark, which was either missed or ignored by media in Canada. Hinshaw seems to be suggesting that if most cases of COVID had more debilitating symptoms, maybe, just maybe, people might take public health measures more seriously.
If COVID-19 made most people who caught it extremely sick, this would make it much less likely to spread. As it actually behaves, it can spread like wildfire, and until we have enough vaccine to offer protection to the most vulnerable Albertans, widespread transmission would still mean surges in hospitalizations, ICU admissions, and even deaths.
You know, she makes a good point because the skeptics I've talked to insist most people are recovering anyway. 134,000 have recovered at last count in Alberta. Since most of them are recovering anyway, why the big lockdowns? Why the restrictions of their freedom? These same people, though, I'll bet you, these same people, if the majority of cases made them extremely ill, they would be the ones calling for the strict quarantines. Well, like it or not, Canada's at the beginning of a third wave of the pandemic, and we don't want to end up like parts of Europe, which are already struggling, despite vaccine campaigns that are much further along than they are in Canada. So how we handle it now will determine how much longer the restrictions go on. You see, We're in a race. It's the vaccines versus the virus. And right now, it's the virus winning, and winning by just more than a nose. We cannot vaccinate our way out of this pandemic. Vaccines can only prevent it from reoccurring once we have ended this one. So I ask you again, if most COVID infections were extremely serious, would it change your behavior? In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Thomas. You know, I don't know what else to think, right? I mean, how a year into this pandemic, the COVID disease, the virus causes devastating results, right? So I don't know what they're watching or not watching. What's the status of the pandemic there in Canada now?
Well, as I said, we're at the beginning of a third wave. Case counts in the province of Ontario, which is the largest in Canada, my province, Alberta, neighboring British Columbia, they're all on the increase. And the problem now is the variants of the original virus, variants that are more contagious. In Ontario, new forms of COVID are responsible for half of the cases. In my province, in the weekend, it was about 11% and rising, but I just got the case count a couple of hours ago for today, and 184 out of 555 new cases reported today are caused by variants. That's 33%. Our chief public health officer for the whole country, her name's Dr. Teresa Tam. She says now is not the time to be easing up on restrictions, but we've got politicians feeling pressure from people who are, like you say, tired of the restrictions, Anna. It's been a year. And Tam says this is a critical time in the war against COVID-19. She worries if we take our foot off the gas now, we're going to end up undoing all of the progress we've made in fighting this pandemic, and we don't want to do that. Anna?
Yes, Thomas, absolutely. Now, I'm just wondering who are being affected in this third wave?
Unlike the beginning of the pandemic, you remember in the beginning, it was seniors, and a lot of seniors died. 80% of the deaths in Canada were seniors at the beginning because of their vulnerability to this infection. But a lot of seniors have been vaccinated now in Canada. Better precautions are being taken in nursing homes, although there are still some serious outbreaks. We had a serious one here with variants a couple of weeks ago. But something a lot of people forget is some of those who do recover from the infection is gone from their body, they still have lingering medical problems. They're called the long haulers. They're struggling with the damage that the virus has done to their systems. Many of them have been unable to return to work. Life as they knew it before the infection is just not the same. They're struggling with these chronic conditions. Younger people are being infected in larger numbers, and they're the ones who tend to become the long haulers. As Dr. Hinshaw said at that news conference, we have to respect this virus and the damage we can do. Don't fear it, respect it. There's a whole continuum of outcomes, from death at the very worst. Then we've got the chronic conditions, and then the people who get it and it's no worse than a cold, they recover with no effects. But the outcome for a given individual is completely unpredictable. Hence, again, we have to respect it, Anna.
Exactly, Thomas. It varies from, like you mentioned, from person to person. So, well, thank you, Thomas, for your updates and for your report, and stay safe.
Thank you for having me, and you take care as well.
Up next, updates from Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Texas. Eagle News America continues. Stay with us.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas, a 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Tune into Mata ng Aguila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Aguila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to thank our help outdoor.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
This is Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. Pennsylvania calls for minimum wage increase. In Swarthmore, Bureau Chief Myla Simbulan is with us this evening to tell us the story. Myla?
That's right, Anna. Department of Labor and Industry Acting Secretary Jennifer Barrier calls for an increase to Pennsylvania's outdated minimum wage to $12 an hour, with a pathway to $15 by 2027. This increase, the first since 2009, will benefit working families and local economies and boost the incomes of more than 1.1 million Pennsylvania workers. Take a look.
We are here today to once again call for an increase to Pennsylvania's woefully inadequate minimum wage. We've been issuing this call for nearly 12 years, and in that time, prices for food, housing, education, childcare, and other critical needs have increased significantly, while the minimum wage Pennsylvanians earn has remained stagnant. While every single state that surrounds Pennsylvania has recognized this loss of purchasing power and increased their minimum wage, we continue to fall further and further behind. Now, many Pennsylvanians are facing job loss and have no savings because they're working jobs that paid too little to allow them to set aside money for emergencies.
Governor Tom Wolf is also proposing to raise the minimum wage to $15 by 2027, boosting incomes for nearly 1.1 million workers and put $4.4 billion into the pockets of Pennsylvania workers in the first year. Raising the wage to $12 an hour will inject an additional $116.4 million into Pennsylvania's economy. An increase to $15 will bolster Pennsylvania's economy by $320.6 million in 2027. Part of Governor Wolf's proposal is to increase low minimum wage to $12 per hour on July 1st of this year, with an annual increases of 50 cents until reaching $15 per hour on July 1, 2027. Key findings from the Keystone Research Center showed the workers who would benefit from a $15 minimum wage include 76% of age 20 or older, or that will be 850,657 workers, 27% age 40 or older, 13% age 55 or older, 38% working full-time, and 62% women. Creating a path to $15 will raise the incomes of more than 1.1 million Pennsylvania workers, provide better stability for women, rural and tipped workers, and allow thousands of people to work their way off public assistance and strengthen the economy for everyone. Right now, Anna, in Swarthmore, it's 51 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius with clear skies. In Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Myla Simbula and Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Myla, for your update. It's some mild weather out there. I'm sure you're enjoying it.
Oh, yes. You have to go outside.
Yes. I'm wondering, what's the minimum wage there now in Pennsylvania, and how does it compare to neighboring states like New Jersey and Delaware?
Pennsylvania's minimum wage currently has been stuck at $7.25 an hour, and that has been like that since 2009. And that's the lowest minimum wage allowed by federal law. So a full-time year-round minimum wage worker earns only about $15,000 annually, and that's less than the federal poverty threshold for a family of two.
What about, did you get a chance to compare it with maybe New Jersey or other neighboring states there?
Actually, in Delaware, the minimum wage is $9.25 per hour, while Jersey, it just started January 1st of this year. It's now $12 an hour. It was $11 last year, and it keeps on increasing. And I believe what the New Jersey governor plan to do is increase it by $1 every year until it reaches $15 in 2024. Anna?
That's the big difference. And you mentioned, you know, people can't live on $15,000 a year, right?
Exactly, yes.
Well, thank you, Myla, for your update. And we'll have you join us in our roundtable discussion a little later in the show. Stay safe.
Sure, will do. You too.
Georgia COVID-19 vaccination numbers increased notably within the span of a week. And Atlanta Bureau Chief Philip Toledo has the details.
Thanks, Anna. Last week, Georgia opened up eligibility for the COVID-19 vaccines to the widest adult population yet. And as of today, the state dashboard shows just about 500,000 more jabs than when we reported last week. But does that mean 500,000 people got shots in the past few days?
Wanted to, first of all, take a few minutes and update you on a data reporting issue that Dr. Toomey's team in my office have been discussing with the CDC. Over the last week, we have collectively worked to identify and confirm at least 250,000 doses administered in Georgia through the federal pharmacy program that have not been reported to the state system or to the CDC administered here in our state.
That definitely explains some of the jump, especially as the drill down on the dashboard tells us about 300,000 doses were administered last week. This comes as the governor continues to fight media reports that say Georgia is last or near last in vaccination progress. CDC data shown on their website as of today puts the state just barely ahead of Alabama in doses administered per 100,000 individuals. To help, the state is operating 9 mass vaccination sites plus a federal-run site in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in downtown Atlanta. To bolster access, the Atlanta Fulton Emergency Management Agency added evening and night appointments there in the stadium. Yesterday, their official Twitter account posted that anyone, yes, anyone, could sign up to get a vaccination. Now, does that sound too good to be true? Well, actually, it is. They tweeted earlier today to clarify that anyone who meets the current eligibility requirements can sign up for the largest location in Georgia. Cases, related deaths, and hospitalizations continue to show a downward trend, and so many of us Georgians are hoping to see light at the end of the tunnel sooner rather than later, especially as nice spring weather seems to have arrived on the first weekend of spring this year. In Atlanta, Georgia, Philip Toledo, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Philip, for that update. Now let's head to the Lone Star State. Fort Worth's mayor addresses anti-Asian racism. Eagle News correspondent Lovely Anderson with the report. Lovely?
Thank you, Anna, and howdy again from the Lone Star State. Feel good spring weather here in Fort Worth, Texas. A nice breeze, the sun is out, and also the clouds are out. But it was a nice spring Springfield to the weather here in Texas. As our nation moves forward from the recent tragedies of the Asian American shooting in Atlanta that took the lives of 8 Americans, 6 of which were Asian Americans, we look to our leading officials for reassurance of peace in our diverse communities here in America. And here locally in Fort Worth, our very own Betsy Price issued a statement. Tragically, we continue to hear the horrors of racial targeting, rhetoric, and crimes against members of the Asian American community and incidents across the country. Today and every day, Fort Worth stands with our Asian American community, and I am calling on the City of Fort Worth's Human Relations Commission to take up this critical issue and continue to advise City Council on ways to do more to support and to protect our Asian American residents. Also, in an official statement released by the White House on its stance of being a world leader in combating systemic racial discrimination, the prevalence and pervasiveness of racial discrimination might make the situation look hopeless, but we remain hopeful. Let us expose the racism and racial discrimination endemic to every society around the globe. Let us press forward to root out that discrimination and remove the rot from our foundation. And on this day, dedicated to ending racial discrimination, let us leave our children a less hateful, more hopeful world. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Linda Thomas Greenfield said. Also in the statement, the Biden administration provided a list of what they are currently doing to address systemic racism. On day 1 of the administration, the president issued an executive order which established that the federal government should pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all, creating opportunities for the improvement of communities that have been historically underserved. And on January 26, President Biden issued a memorandum condemning and combating racism, xenophobia, and intolerance against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in the United States. The strengthening of democracy in the United States is a critical part of President Biden's foreign policy vision. At the United Nations Human Rights Council, more than 140 nations joined together with the United States in a statement outlining the continuing scourge of racism and racial discrimination, xenophobia, and other forms of intolerance. This historic cross-regional statement is a call to action for all nations. It's acknowledging and addressing the legacy of persistent of systemic racism, a review and a revised long-standing practice and policy to ensure all individuals are treated equally, and to also embed fairness in decision-making processes and redress inequities and policies that serve as barriers to equal opportunity and eliminate barriers to political participation. In other news, in other local news, Texas Health Resources is committed to providing our communities with education and resources regarding COVID-19. You can go directly to fortworthtexas.gov website and you can download all these very informative information regarding COVID-19. And remember, registering for the COVID-19 vaccine is still available online on the Tarrant County website. As we continue to fight against this ongoing pandemic, let's remember, never forget, let's continue to mask up and social distance. We're almost there, getting closer to that tunnel, that light at the end of the tunnel. But before I leave you tonight, I leave you with one of those feel-good quotes I ran across. In a time of destruction, create something. Maxine Hong Kingston. How about we the people, create an environment of love, peace, and respect. And I say that again, respect. Respect for one another so that our children can grow in a more better and a more perfect world. Good morning to everyone, or good evening to others. Love you all in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm Lovely Anderson, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Lovely, for the update and that inspiring quote. Now, you talked about the vaccine. Have you received the vaccine, the COVID vaccine?
I did, actually. I did 2 weeks ago. I had my first shot of the Pfizer vaccine, and I'm scheduled for my second shot on Tuesday. Looking forward to it.
Can you tell us what your experience was through the process and how'd you feel?
Absolutely. You know, I was very surprised and I was very proud to be, one, a Texan, but also a Fort Worthian. And I say that because our county had everything set up to think that they administered thousands and thousands of vaccines to people. They had the National Guard out there, they had reservists out there, they had the police out there, medical professionals. Everything was orderly, everything was done efficiently. I think it took me about 45 minutes from the time I stood in line with my car and then I go into the building. Everything was lined up. The National Guard was there to direct. It was just done so great. I had to thank all of them and every one of them and just say thank you, because here I am thinking it's going to be a 3-4 hour long time out of my day. It was actually 45 minutes. I spent the longest time waiting 15 minutes for the shot to go through or just wait there. But other than that, it was great. And I was so impressed. I had to pass out drinks because I was just so happy for these policemen. They've been working all morning. I passed them out some drinks, some water, some juices, because it was just such a great thing that the city and the county did.
Wow, that's very nice of you. That's very thoughtful of you. And that's very true. You know, it's easy for us or for other people to stand back and, you know, criticize the process in anywhere, actually. But yes, you're absolutely right. It takes, you know, we have to understand it's a lot of moving parts in organizing those massive vaccine sites. So, well, I'm glad you did well, and thank you for joining us in this broadcast. Lovely. We'll talk to you in a little bit.
Thank you.
Still to come, stories from California and Nevada. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Start up your weekday mornings with edutainment, news, and information kasama ang inyong paboritong Net25 shows. Samahan ang inyong paboritong morning barkada sa Pambansang Almusal at 5 a.m. Tatalakayin mga pangunahing balita sa pagtutulungan ng Radyo Agila at Net25. Samahan si Weng de la Fuente sa Balitalakayan, 7 a.m. Saganang Mamamayan at 8 a.m. NHK World at 9 a.m. Eagle News International at 10 a.m. At mga balitang dapat niyong malaman mula sa Agila, Pilipinas at 11 a.m. This is your morning startup every weekday mornings only here on Net25.
This is Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. Greatly impacted by the pandemic, transportation agencies of the Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim region will receive funding from several COVID relief initiatives. In West Hills, Daniel Glenn Sakulis has the details. Daniel?
Thank you, Anna. You know, it's no secret that the COVID-19 pandemic has greatly disrupted local and global economies. In Los Angeles County, one of the hardest hit sectors is public transportation. A study by the American Public Transportation Association reported that just in July of last year, almost half of the entire public transit bureaus had either begun or were planning on carrying out plans to reduce service, lay off employees, and postpone or in some cases completely terminate what they call capital projects. For the Metropolitan Transportation Authority in Los Angeles, a $1.8 billion revenue loss was anticipated, as well as a 2-year delay for ridership numbers to return to pre-pandemic levels. In a move to curtail budgetary shortages, Los Angeles applied for 3 relief measures: the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, and the American Rescue Plan, or ARP. In total, these measures awarded Los Angeles $3.8 billion, and of this amount, $1.6 billion comes from the ARP. This relief funding will be distributed by the Southern California Association of Government to county transportation agencies of the Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim region. At the instruction of Mayor Eric Garcetti, Metro is to use all of the LA's share of the relief funding to quicken the reinstatement of transit services to what they were before the pandemic. The estimated timeline for this to be accomplished is by this September. According to Metro CEO Philip A. Washington, public transportation ridership has fallen to nearly 50% since the start of the pandemic. Washington hopes that the American Rescue Plan Act will help Los Angeles County restore the passenger count on Metro buses and trains. And with restrictions beginning to loosen and the workforce starting to rebound, the importance that public transportation has for residents returning to their jobs is significant. In West Hills, California, Daniel Glensakoulis, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Daniel, for your report. Now, can you tell us, what are some of the factors related to the pandemic that contributed to the nearly 50% reduction in public transportation ridership there?
Anna, everybody knows the pandemic wreaked major havoc on the economy, and with people losing jobs, the need for a ride to work was really greatly diminished. Many people were also concerned that the risk of infection is greater when taking a train or bus used by the general public. But with more residents receiving the COVID vaccination, health protocols in place, and businesses starting to recover, the hope is that railway and bus lines will begin to see the return of passengers. Anna?
Yes, thank you, Daniel, for that report. Stay safe out there.
Stay safe.
Now, most people probably know about the permanent engraving of a vehicle's federally registered vehicle identification number, or what we call VIN number, onto the windshield or windows. But how about catalytic converter etching? Here's Keisha Rose Lebanon from Santa Clarita, California, to tell us the story. Keisha?
Thank you, Anna. Now, catalytic converter thefts in Los Angeles County are on the rise, prompting a joint effort from investigators of the Los Angeles Police and Sheriff's Department. These targeting this vital component, which is designed to control vehicle emissions by converting them into less harmful gases, are interested in selling metals as they contain platinum, palladium, and rhodium. Now, because of job losses caused by the pandemic, some people are using their cars less and less, and which in many instances are left unattended more frequently and for greater periods of time. Now, this scenario that car abandons are seizing as a golden opportunity, but it's also an expensive problem for owners who can pay up to thousands of dollars to replace a stolen converter. Experts point out that catalytic converter thefts are crimes of an opportunity and offer suggestions on how to mitigate the chances of being targeted. Now, one such precautionary measure that law enforcement detectives recommend is engraving or etching the vehicle's license plate number directly on the catalytic converter. This move is actually hoped to sway away the thieves from swiping converters and discourage the metal scrapers from buying stolen goods that bear identifiable markings. In these cases wherein stolen converters are recovered, those with etchings can help authorities return them to the rightful owner. Now, before viewers decide to bring out the car jack stands and squeeze under their cars and make etchings of their own and thereby potentially damaging their vehicle and even possibly injuring themselves, they should know that Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department has been holding free, no-cost catalytic converter etching events, so that it goes without saying that leaving this type of procedure to professional is probably the best way to go. Now, those interested in this free service and who live in the Santa Clarita Valley can look forward to another theft protection etching event on March 25th at the Reeves Complete Auto Center in Canyon Country. Now, to be clear, this is for Santa Clarita Valley residents who schedule an appointment. For more information about this event, you can contact Santa Clarita Station Deputy Cabrina Boren, and in Santa Clarita, California, Keisha Rose Lebanon, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Keisha. Thank you also for that disclaimer. We definitely don't want people trying that at home. Please attend the free seminar instead, right? Now, Keisha, can you tell us what kind of vehicles are more prone to this, catalytic converter stealing?
Yeah, and it's actually a tongue twister, right? So according to the data, vehicles that are among the top targeted list for thieves to steal are the Toyota Priuses, Honda Accords, Jeep Cherokees, and even Ford pickup trucks. Now, Cadillac converter thieves aren't something new. It's actually been happening for a while, and it's actually good to know that the LAPD and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department are taking this matter seriously, and that there are free etching events to be offered to residents. Anna?
Yes, it's definitely a great help, and for people to know that they can do something about it. So
definitely.
Thank you, Keisha, for your report, and stay safe out there.
Thank you, Anna.
Now we're staying on the West Coast, but now to Las Vegas. If you can't see spring somewhere else in the world this year, this hotel in the entertainment capital of the world will bring it to you. How about that? Lori, with the story.
Thank you, Anna. And happy springtime to all our viewers in America and abroad. The official start of the spring season in the Northern Hemisphere was just yesterday, March 20th, and I'm excited to share with you a Las Vegas tradition, which is a look at the famous Bellagio Hotel, Conservatory, and Botanical Gardens. Each season, the 14,000 square foot space is transformed into a showcase of inspiring sights, sounds, scents, and colors. Upon entering, all your senses are immediately welcomed by vibrant, colorful displays, accompanying music to honor each region represented, and a wonderful mixture of floral aromas from each carefully landscaped section. The current theme is springtime celebrations around the world and features numerous blooming floral displays reflecting how the world celebrates spring. Highlights include 2 oversized hummingbirds hovering over massive flowers, a greenhouse filled with butterfly sculptures, and rows of beautiful flowers to represent the Chelsea Flower Show of England. A recreation of the Keukenhof Festival in Holland features a large windmill and vibrant tulips and daffodils, blooming cherry blossom trees, and a walkway through a column structure reminiscent of DC's architecture surrounded by roses represents the Cherry Blossom Festival held in Washington, D.C. And finally, a tribute to Thailand's Songkran Water Festival showcases golden umbrellas suspended mid-air, a Buddhist temple, and a golden elephant spouting water into a pool where a traditional boat of Thailand is overflowing with blooming flowers. The best part of this lavish showcase, which is open 24 hours a day, is that it's free to the public and will be available to view now through May 22nd. In Las Vegas, Nevada, Lori Jaravina, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Lori. It is a beautiful, beautiful display there. So those of you, Eagle News team here, that's on, if you ever come to Vegas, make sure you visit the Bellagio's Conservatory garden there. Now, Lori, what part of the display did you enjoy the most?
It was very beautiful, Anna, and amazing. Definitely a sight to see. I did have my heart kind of partial to the DC display, which had the cherry blossoms, because we used to go visit that when we lived in the East Coast in Maryland, and so I was kind of partial to that. But all of them, all of the displays were beautiful. But I do love the cherry blossoms. Anna?
Well, thank you, Lori, for that report, and we'll talk to you later in our roundtable. Stay safe.
Thank you, Anna.
Up next, spring in Washington, plus tonight's roundtable, National Common Courtesy Day. Let's talk about treating others the way we want to be treated. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back. I'm Anna Queen in Las Vegas. This is Eagle News America. Spring is indeed here, and the nation's capital agrees. In Washington, EBC's Eliza Gonzalez-Manglikmot takes us around D.C. with tourists and locals getting their share of a little bit of normalcy a year after the lockdowns. Plus, families and friends in the district running and walking for this year's Fit D.C. virtual 5K event. Take a look.
This time last year, barely no one can be seen walking the streets of Washington, D.C. It was when COVID restrictions were put in place to curb the virus spread. Fast forward to today, the nation's capital is alive again with locals and tourists as lockdown restrictions ease across the country. People crowd the streets of the nation's capital, most of whom are spending a lot of time at and around the National Mall. Food trucks are back in play as patrons bask in the sun while enjoying their food with family and friends. Apparel and souvenir trucks are back too. Cars and pedestrians take turns at traffic lights. People and pets walk, run, take photos, or simply watch others do what they do. Things probably most missed by a lot in the past 12 months. Meanwhile, the very friendly weather is perfect as Fit DC's Her Story virtual 5K brings friends and families together, celebrating women and girls. The virtual run or walk is a free event sponsored by the Department of Parks and Recreation in partnership with Aetna. It is a citywide initiative providing simplified health and wellness during these complicated times. Honoring and celebrating women and girls, participants had the opportunity to run and walk around the district on routes and tracks provided by the DPR. Eagle News met a group of friends who picked the White House and National Mall route. Frequent walker Debbie Lightfoot, a Maryland resident, says this event gave her and her friends a chance to enjoy the capital.
Well, we wanted to get out in the fresh air, and it's always something to do, and we've always walked. We walk just about every day. So we wanted to get out and do something different today. This event is because it's in D.C., and even though I live in Maryland and I've been here forever, I have never seen the majority of these monuments. So we have hit just about all the monuments today, and it's just been fantastic.
Debbie's friend and walking companion says, today it is all about women.
And we're celebrating women. And we're celebrating women, absolutely.
That's the theme of this year, celebrating women.
Celebrating women, our health.
You got it on your mind?
Yes. Well, just being able to get out, and mental health is so important. Socializing with friends. So it's a good time to get out and make people realize that we don't have to be cooped up. Right.
As more and more people get vaccinated and restrictions ease little by little, things seem to be inching back to normalcy after a year of sacrifice and endurance. Even pets agree it is a good day to be out and about. But the fight isn't over. Some attractions in the capital remain closed, and fears of a possible infection surge caused by COVID variants loom. However, days like today are a reminder that the more we observe safety guidelines such as mask wearing and physical distancing, the sooner we get to go back to how things used to be.
Indeed, it looks like it's a more cheerful spring this year than the one last year. In Washington, Eliza Gonzalez, Maglicmod, Eagle News. We'll live in interesting times.
Thank you, Eliza. Now, March 21 is National Common Courtesy Day. It's a day to reflect or simply be reminded of doing simple acts that can brighten up someone's day. You know, common courtesy, it should be second nature to people, right? But most of the time, maybe we take it for granted or we forget it. One positive outcome of the pandemic is that we've learned to be more polite, to give way to people or to give them more space, to cover our mouth when coughing or sneezing. So let's ask our team here tonight, what common courtesy do you take to heart and hope that other people will continue to do? Let's start with Thomas Legness. Thomas?
Well, in your preamble, you raised that question, how common is common courtesy? But to me, it's simple things like saying please or thank you. It's treating people with respect, especially, service people, whether it be the grocery clerk, a server in a restaurant, the cleaning staff in your office building. Don't be demanding. Don't be ignorant. Treat people with respect. Help them. Hold the door for someone if they're struggling with packages. On the road, for goodness sake, let somebody, if they're signaling, let them go in front of you. Is it going to kill you to be courteous? Sorry about the rant. Back to you.
That's okay, Thomas. You can rant. You can rant. And you, speaking of like giving way, I always say that on the road, right? If people would just be more courteous and would give way, somebody trying to turn, just slow down a bit and give them time to make that turn, right? It would be much better. Thank you, Thomas. Now, what about Lori? Lori?
For common courtesies, I always try to teach the kids to just, say hello to people. Even if you don't know them, just smile or nod, acknowledge them. And something that is kind of obligatory in my home is before sleeping every night, they have to kiss me and hug me. And the first thing they have to do in the morning is the same, a kiss and a hug before I answer any questions or any demands. Simple courtesies. Anna?
Oh, that's a good reminder, Lori. Be courteous first to our own, right? To our family. Thank you for sharing that. Now, how about Myla?
I think Thomas and Lori covered it all. But one thing I always teach my children is respect to our elders, especially in our culture. I mean, because I was born in Filipino culture, and respect for elders is really, really, really important. We were taught even when we were kids. And also, one of the things that also that I've been teaching my children is table manners, especially with this digital world. Phones are not allowed when we eat dinner. That's one thing that it's not how you properly use spoon or the fork, on this side or the right. No, it's a rule in the houses. When we eat dinner or even lunch or breakfast, no phone. We have to talk to each other. That's the only time we usually have good conversations. So yes, those are the common ones that we usually teach my children. Anna.
Yes. Thank you, Myla. Well, I have the same rule when we go out. When we got to eat together, or even here at home, should put your phones down and talk to each other. That's a good practice. All right, Keisha, let's hear from you. What common courtesy is close to your heart?
The common courtesy that's close to my heart is first and foremost is respect. Respect others. I think treating others you want to be treated is self-explanatory. But one thing that I'm actually trying to adjust to and trying to learn is when, having a conversation with somebody, you give them your full undivided attention. Like Mila said, we live in a digital world now. We're so a lot of people are always on their phones, that our attention span tends to drift. So something that I've been really working on is giving somebody my full undivided attention, especially when they're face to face. Anna?
Yes, we absolutely have to be aware of sometimes we forget, right? We just go with the flow, and we forget sometimes. So it's good to be aware that to put that phone down, or to, like you said, to look somebody in the eye when you're having a conversation. Thank you for that, Keisha. Now, what about Glenn? Daniel?
Sure, Anna. When you think about, or when I think about common courtesy, I think the first thing that really pops into my mind is the golden rule, which I'm sure everyone's kind of heard of it, treating each other, treating someone or other people the way that you want to be treated. But the truth is that, our society nowadays is so complex with the multitudes of, ethnicities and beliefs and religions that not all, it's not always the same where you expect someone to feel okay when you treat them the way that, that you would want to be treated. Meaning that, something simple would be like, when I speak to you, or when you speak with me, I would expect you to look at me. But in some cultures, that's actually not the best thing to do. So I think really the thing to do is to really just educate people, teach your children that everyone has different beliefs, respect them for what they are. But most importantly, I think just ask them how, what is the right thing, or how should I treat you? So that's kind of how I think about it.
Exactly. Thank you, Daniel. Now, Lovely, I hate to rush you, but 20 seconds, common courtesy close to your heart.
Common courtesy to me is always, like Mila said, respecting your elders. I have a huge heart for the elders, for my aunties, titas, aunties, lolas, and all of them. If I see them at the grocery store and they're struggling with some bags of groceries, I'm probably that one that's going to help you. So I think a really good deal is always respect those elders, and when you see somebody struggling, help them.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, team, for participating in our roundtable this evening. And here at Eagle News, we will continue to practice common courtesy as we thank our frontliners, first responders, and essential workers, and give them a much-deserved round of applause. We appreciate all of you for what you continue to do for all of us. That is today's Eagle News America. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Anna Cui, and we live in interesting times.